First of all, Israel did enhance its deterrence power. The other side, namely the Hamas and the rest of the Arab world, learned that we can cause them a very, very severe damage. The leaders of the Hamas, Mashal, and even bin Laden very recently stated that what Israel has done in Gaza was a Holocaust. That's the word they used. They learned that the rules of the game that prevailed until this operation have changed dramatically. Israel would no longer put up with regular shooting of rockets against its people. The split in the Arab world has widened between what we call the moderate state, which are the majority of the states in the Arab world, Egypt, Saudi, Lebanon, Jordan, Morocco, all the Gulf states, Bahrain, Qatar, Abu Dhabi, and so on, and the radical states, mainly in the region, mainly Iran and Syria, has widened. And the fourth thing is that actually the Arab world learned that when Israel carries out an operation against the Hamas or the Hezbollah, the international community basically gives us free hand to do almost whatever we wanted, not for an unlimited period of time, but actually the international community, I refer mainly to the United States and Europe, during the operation in Gaza, gave us almost total free hand to do whatever we wanted. Almost. There was no pressure, no restriction on Israel during the war. We didn't achieve a total deterrence. As you know, even now, even in those days, every day there is still shooting against Israel cities. Every day. 1 or 2 or 3 rockets are still launched every day from Gaza against Israel. We have not managed to stop the smuggling of arms into Gaza. There is much saying, many promises, but on the ground there is still smuggling of arms into Gaza. So on the whole, our situation is better than it was before, but there is still a long way to go ahead. The Israeli public made it very clear and very loud that it supports a change in the policy that was carried out before the election. Most of the Israeli people tend to think that the policy of restraint was not effective. And instead of bringing tranquility and peaceful atmosphere in the area, it led up to 2 major confrontations, both in the north part of Israel and the south part of Israel, in which hundreds of Israelis were killed and thousands of Palestinians were killed. And that this policy must be changed. The new government that is being composed those days in Israel, to the best of my knowledge, and I know some of the leading figures in this government, would indeed bring about a change in the Israeli policy, both towards the Hezbollah and towards the Hamas. There can be no doubt about it. However, Israel is not an island. Israel is a state that must take into consideration not only military considerations, but also political considerations. We have to take into consideration mainly the position and the policies of the new administration in the United States, which is still a puzzle to us. And there is a problem of Iran ahead, which is by far more important and crucial to Israel than the question of the Hezbollah and the Hamas. And there is also the economic crisis, and there is also the Israeli internal domestic scene, the support of the Israeli public. In conclusion, there are many, many considerations that should be taken up by the Israeli leadership, and those considerations would shape eventually the Israeli policy towards the terrorist organization. The American position is taken very seriously by Israel, and rightly so. America is our great ally. America is our great ally, and we depend very much on the United States positions. We still don't know what will be the policy that, with regard to the Middle East, that will be taken by the Obama administration. And frankly, I think that Obama himself doesn't know what kind of policy he's going to undertake. I don't think he formulated a solid thinking with regard to the Middle East. And basically, he has two options in front of him. One option is what I call the Carter option, Jimmy Carter option. This option supports a massive involvement of the United States in the resolution of the Israeli-Palestinian issue at the presidential level, not at the level of the Secretary of State, but at the presidential level. That means the president puts all his power and position and prestige in an attempt to bring about a resolution of the conflict between us and the Palestinians. That's one option. This was undertaken by Jimmy Carter when he managed to bring about a peace treaty between Israel and Egypt, and to a certain extent also by President Clinton. Bush was holding the second option. That means low-profile involvement. That means the United States would make kind of noise with regard to its aspiration to bring about a resolution of the conflict, but basically all the efforts in this regard were undertaken by the Secretary of State, Condoleezza Rice, and not the President. The President himself did not put his position and prestige in the resolution of the conflict. And we all know that if there would be ever a resolution of the conflict with American involvement, it has to come from the President himself. So I think basically Obama sees in front of himself those two options. And I still don't think that he made up his mind as to what kind of option he is going to undertake.